Derbyhites, we're back for episode 12, season 4 of Outlander. We're almost at the end, and yeah, it's terrifying.
Sad. That's what it is. It's sad.
It is sad, but you know, all good things come to an end, and
that's no consolation prize.
Well, it is what it is. It's not going to go on forever. You'd get sick of it.
I beg to differ, but go on.
And I think a lot of the fans will be begging to differ as well. So episode 412, Providence. This is what Starz says about the episode. Brianna confronts a violent figure from her past in an attempt to cope with her trauma. Roger befriends a fellow captive and endeavours to escape the Mohawk village, while Fergus and Marcelly plan a dangerous mission to save an old friend from the noose. What they should have added is, and you won't see Sam and Katrina much at all.
Yeah, that's probably going to be the only downside to this episode. And I totally get that. But like I said to you when we were watching it, the books do tend to slowly progress from a Jamie and Claire centered story to a Brianna and Roger centered story. So I've got nothing to add to that other than that. So I was quite happy with the episode. I enjoyed it. You weren't so thrilled.
Some of the feedback I've been getting from various fans and colleagues and you know, people that we speak to, and comments on YouTube and comments from Twitter are that, you know, the show is beloved as always, but there is some frustration from fans, particularly those who have not read the books, that the show is moving away from Katrina and Sam. We got one very brief scene of Sam Hewen at the beginning of this episode.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even think we saw Claire at all, which is very unusual. And it is what it is. It doesn't necessarily bother me, but it is unfortunate that we're not going to get as much Sam and Katrina as we would like, because you know we are all so enamored with their performances.
Yeah, you're right. And but like I said, you as a book reader, I knew this was going to eventually come up, because you sort of have a couple of chapters in the book where it's Jamie and Claire, and then while they're off doing their thing, you're then wondering what are Brianna and Roger doing. You just sort of can't have them as a footnote at the end of the chapter. Then we then get a couple of chapters about what they're up to. But with this episode, there were two trains of thought as I was watching it. One, again, I should preface, it was about 2 years ago I read this book, maybe even 3 now. And so I knew that Roger was going to eventually meet the priest, and I was really looking forward to that bit. So that bit is in the book, but I was also really looking forward to the fact that when they tried to break Murtagh out of jail, because that's not in the book for obvious reasons.
So who would Fergus and Marcelly have been saving from the book, or is that whole sequence just not in the book?
I think, again, pretty hazy, but I'm pretty sure that whole sequence isn't in the book. And if memory serves, and if I'm more than willing to be corrected, so add your comments at the bottom. But from what I remember, Marcelly and Fergus stay in Wilmington. That was the last I remember reading about it. And so that's where I thought they still were. Even though throughout the book, Jamie and Claire do constantly persuade them to come live on Fraser's Ridge.
So, not going to lie, the firstly parts of the episode didn't really grab me. There's three parts to the episode. There's the Fergus and Marcelly stuff, trying to save Murtagh. And I love Murtagh, but I didn't really give a crap about that stuff, to be honest. Then you have the Brianna going to see Bonnett stuff, which we'll talk about in a minute. And then you have the Roger in the Mohawk village, which was, for me, the best part of the episode.
Oh, yeah, that was great. You know, I was like just wanting to give Roger a hug in those scenes. And I'm like, oh, I was just like, you gorgeous, sentimental character. Like, yeah, it was just so heartwarming. And it was just, you know, it really brought out the romantic in me. I really loved it, and I loved how he was so honest and so true to his feelings, and it was just really sweet to see. That's what I liked about it.
Let's focus on the Roger storyline. So he's with the Mohawk. First of all, just so we could just bring this up. We've already kind of explained a bit in the comments from the last episode, but we didn't get to see the first scene of Roger in the shower where he's obviously hallucinating. So that we didn't see that. So whatever we see is whatever Star sends to us as part of their media screening episodes, and sometimes they differ slightly to what airs on the actual network. Anyway, so what this episode did was it allowed us to kind of get more perspective on Roger and why and how and what happened and why he's still in up in New York State. So that's
why he didn't go through the stones.
Yeah.
Like I said, look, I knew he didn't go through the stones because that's what's in the book. But like I said in the video, it all could have changed. They didn't kill Murta off in the series. Murta dies in the book, and I was just enjoying it. I was going along for the ride thinking, oh, maybe he did go back through the stones. So because I missed that shower scene, I was a bit bummed for starters, and like we mentioned, we waited 40 minutes to find out what happened to Roger.
It definitely added a lot to the episode for them to put that little teaser in the beginning. So that was a very good choice.
It did. I really like that.
So Roger's with the mohawk. Then he's the Native American with the hair. I don't know his name, but he obviously is one of the antagonists for Roger. But there's that kind French-speaking lady. And we learn that she has had this beautiful baby with the French priest that we're going to meet in the hut. And all of that starts to eventuate. And I remember you were saying, oh, that French priest, things are not going to end well for him. And I was like nodding, thinking, yeah, I can see this happening. And there's some very good dialogue between them. So it all worked for me. And then the ending, because I'm usually very skeptical about this stuff, and it was expecting it to be like melodramatic and not effective at all, but it really actually was, and I think it was very well done that Roger was there to kind of like speed up the process of this guy being burnt at the stake. And then remember what I said when I was like, oh, I don't buy this. I was getting a little frustrated because the woman dropped the baby and then ran into the fire. I'm like, what are you doing? I was a bit annoyed about that.
You were a bit annoyed, but I liked how it was filmed. You've got Roger, he's running, but it's all in slow-mo, and he picks up the cask, and I'm like, what is that? It wasn't until they actually threw it that I realized it was a barrel of whiskey, which you saw in the little bit of the promo after the credits, because you see them drinking. And then you just see it go up in smoke, and then and you remember because it was love. She loved him, and you're like, but what about the baby?
Yeah, what about the baby?
You're so literal some days. Drives me crazy. Look, I get it. I understand. But, there's a phrase, it takes a village to raise a child. She knew her child would be safe. Yeah. She knew her child would be safe. So in that moment, you saw her heart break. Like, could she live with this child who looked like the man she loved, or go and kill herself and prove a point to go with the man she loved?
Yeah, well, okay, so that's that. I thought it was really interesting. When Roger was peering behind the bushes and then decides to run in to save him, I'm like, yet again, you're doing something against your own best interest. I just want to smash you. What are you doing? Stop.
And the whole convo that he has as he's running away to himself.
Like, stop it now.
Yeah, I like that. But, sometimes you need a good monologue or an inner monologue coming out as a bit of a, speech to yourself that, to give explanation to why someone does something. I thought it was really nicely done. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily saying it wasn't bad, it wasn't well done. I just sometimes question their choices. But anyway.
Yes, I know what you mean, yeah.
What I must, once again, I do this a lot, but I want to give a shout out to John Gary Steele and Terry Dressback for their amazing work, particularly in this episode. The costumes and sets were incredible.
They're amazing.
Oh my God. Like the Native American, I don't know how genuine or authentic they are because I'm not very familiar with Native American culture, but I thought it was just really beautiful to look at.
Yeah, I even liked how Roger had sort of taken off all of his, his costume or his clothes and was dressed more like a mohawk. I kind of liked that. So yeah, they did a wonderful job. I thought it was beautifully done.
Yeah. So I might tweet at them this week because I just think that they are such talents of this show. Really,
Yep.
really, really amazing work. Let's move on to. I don't really have much to say about the Fergus and Marcely storyline. Really, to be honest, I didn't get a lot out of it. Do you have anything you want to add before we move on to the other main attraction?
Look, I think with those whole scenes go to the fact that I was kind of happy. I'm like, yeah, they're going to move to Fraser's Ridge, be with their family, Fergus finally gets to meet Brianna and all that, even though Brianna's currently a River Run, I know. But, they get to be with their family and do the whole family thing. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. But, this also goes to the part in last episode with Marcely saying how she wanted she was getting Murta to help Fergus feel, more of a man because he had one hand. And then, and Fergus enthusiastically enlists all the regulators to break Murta out of jail so he doesn't get hung, which I thought was kind of cool. I liked it.
Fair enough. Let's talk then mainly about I think the main attraction of the episode, and that is Brianna and Bonnett. So it starts off with Brianna, she's been told that, Bonnett has been captured, and there's lots of umming and ahhing about whether she should see him, and she's going to see him, but we still have to go through the process. We have to go through the process, and Lord John Grey gets trotted out. And I'm just being honest, no disrespect to David Berry, is that his name?
Yes.
But I was thinking in my head, I'm kind of done with this character. Let's move on. That's just what I was thinking.
Oh, get out.
I'm just done.
No. I think Brianna summed it up quite well. There was one line, and I don't know if anybody picked up on it, might have glossed over it. For those 2 seconds, you might have checked your phone. But she said, "You're impossible not to like." I'm like, oh, that is a good way to sum up Lord John Grey. Yeah, he can be irritating at times, but he is impossible to not like because he's got, great morals and he's there. He's standing by her. He's engaged to her, waiting for Jamie to bring Roger back. Come on.
I know. Okay, I guess you can give him that much.
Thank you. And he's an Aussie. You got to support the Aussies, man.
We do, because we are extremely patriotic. Oh, sorry. Before I move on, I just had this little note about how Dogface, Richard Rankin, I just loved how he was called. But I did make a note that when we get the explanation from Roger about how he was at the Stones and why he didn't go through it and all that, and the speech he gives, the monologue, Richard Rankin, beautiful performance, dude. You are killing it.
That's the bit that I loved. That's the bit where I just wanted to reach through the screen and give him a hug. I'm like, oh, you beautiful man. Great performance. Roger would be a best husband to Brianna, but we know he is. Oh, yeah, I loved it. I loved that scene and the way he told it and the tears and the eyes and the... yeah.
Anyway, so then we then finally get Brianna. We know she's going to go and see Bonnett, and she goes to the jail or wherever he's being held, and then we have this meeting with Bonnett, and he's typically being a real asshole, and she kind of lets him have it, and then it says, I'm going to raise this baby, and she gives that speech. But then there's some talk about the ruby, and Bonnett then he tries to show a bit of that he has a soft side or a humanity, and I have to be honest, that was another little thing that I didn't really want to see. I just was happy for him to just go hard, just be a real prick. But he didn't. And that's just the choice that was made for the show, and that's totally cool. But when he gave the softer side, I was like, really? I don't know.
Yeah, look, again, I don't remember the whole speech in the book, but I do remember that Brianna does go see him. So I don't remember what they spoke about, but I kind of liked it, but the performance was very well delivered. Let me preface by saying that the performance was great, but in regards to character, I didn't buy it either. Like all of a sudden, he sort of like he flips the switch, and all of a sudden he's a nice guy, and he's pulling a ruby out of his tooth for the child's maintenance. I'm like, he couldn't give a crap 30 seconds ago. Like now he does.
And he's a murdering rapist. Like,
yeah.
So let's just leave him at that. But that's okay. Like, it is what it is. So look, that's where we're left with the episode.
But before you finish, I want to know. So I know what's going to happen in the books. So as a slight spoiler, I know he does not get his justice by being hung. So throughout that whole scene, I was intrigued to see if he was going to get out. So the last shot that we see of Bonnett is him like trying, and he actually gets the keys before the whole jail gets blown to smithereens. So I'm going to guess that he probably lives to see another day, because I kind of am hoping that we will get to see the justice that's delivered to him in the book in the show.
Oh, good. Because, I mean, nothing pleases me more than a really juicy revenge fantasy. And I'm hoping he will get his comeuppance at the hands of one of the characters that we're rooting for.
Maybe, maybe not.
We'll see. But in any event, episode 13 is coming up next week. It's Sunday afternoon here in Australia. We will see it on probably Thursday night. And I've got the description right in front of me. I will not be reading it, but I have a feeling that I don't know if we're going to get the reunion. We've had a lot of reunions in this show.
Yeah, in this season. Yeah, we have, haven't we?
I don't know if we're going to see Roger and Brianna back together, and we're going to see Claire and Jamie back together, and I don't know if we're going to see Myrta and all these things. So there's a lot to look forward to. What I would really love from everybody watching this is to tweet us or write in the comments all of your thoughts about this episode, and particularly of our coverage over the last 12 weeks, and whether you're happy or not happy with what we've been saying. We love hearing your feedback, regardless whether it's constructive, negative, or positive. And then let us know what you're looking forward to for next week, so that when we all get together next week, we can talk about some of your comments. Maybe we might actually bring them up on our chat, so we can, we'll name drop you, or some of the tweets that you tweet at us, and so that next week's chat we can talk about not only the finale, but also the season that we just witnessed, and how we think it kind of stacks up against the other 3 seasons. Because then we've got a longer Outlander ahead of us, obviously. And yes, so everybody make sure you stick with Gold Derby. We really look forward to coming back next week for our final episode. And yeah, that's it from me.
Bye.